Can you tell us about how you've managed to create such movements from your perspective?
Good morning, everyone. Well, it's exciting to see that the world is beginning to think in terms of trees, because without putting soil under shade, at least 50 to 60% of the planet's soil should go under shade. Without that, there is no ecosystem recovery, it will not happen. So, trillion trees is not going to do that, but definitely it's an inspiring number to go for. But we also need to understand, we never plant trees, we either plant seeds or saplings. Before we call it a tree, it'll take 6 to 10 years, that's when it becomes a tree. So these 6 to 10 years, as the President pointed out, and battling the criminals, well, in a certain country you can call them criminals, but in the rest of the world, they're successful businesses. So, the timber that's sold around the planet is largely illegal, but many nations buy it and things are happening about it. So, timber is a lucrative item. So, when it is so, it is very important that it becomes an economic process for the people. So, this is what we have done in southern India, where right now there's a project to involve 5 million farmers to grow timber in their lands as part of agroforestry, which includes other crops in between. It is tree cultivation with crops, and crops come out much better, the nutritional values are better, the soil recovers, the water tables come up, and above all, there is a long-term crop on the land. One of the major challenges right now in India for us is, it is estimated in the next 10 years, 220 million people will migrate to cities. No city in the country is geared to handle that kind of population. In the rest of the world, it is estimated 1.6 billion people will migrate. But one simple way to stop this, before we do many other things which need to be done, is when farmers have long-term crops on their land, they're not going to go away anywhere, because there is investment standing there and growing. By the day, money is growing on the land, they're not going to go away. So it's extremely important that as you're doing it in wastelands and lands that need to be recovered, it's very important agricultural lands must get back trees. And this will make a huge difference, because in the last 25 years, in many parts of the world, the nutritional value of the foods that we eat has come down by 40%. If this has to be recovered, trees have to come back on the farm, and only if there are long-term crops, there is an assurance people who are living on the land will continue to live on the land and not end up in a city slum somewhere. So, like how we got people into this, well, when I saw that people had no connection with the tree, and trees had gone long time ago, and tree is just a word in people's minds. So I trained a few thousand people to demonstrate this to millions of people across South India. We made people sit with eyes closed and made them breathe and set up a certain process where your exhalation is tree's inhalation, tree's exhalation is your inhalation. Once they felt this, you can't stop them planting trees, because one half of your breathing apparatus is hanging out there on the tree. Once people felt this, you just can't stop it. So, this connect is very needed, because it will take 15–20 years to get a tree to a reasonable size. But in one afternoon, it can be cut and taken away. And don't be assured that you are going to stop it with the police or security or this or that, because it's too lucrative, you're not going to stop it. Like you're not able to stop drugs on the planet, you will not be able to stop timber trade, because anyway they will go. So people need timber. Timber needs to become an agricultural produce. We should stop looking at timber as forest produce. Forests on the planet have reached a point where it cannot take any more exploitation. We have used it sufficiently, but it cannot take any more exploitation. Timber has to become an agricultural produce. Do we have land to do this? We definitely have. 51 million square kilometers of land is under agricultural tilling right now. And out of this, 40 million square kilometers are used for raising animals or their food. If we push right now super athletes on the planet, your Tom Brady, Lionel Messi, Virat Kohli, all people who have 100 million following, they are all turned vegetarian. This is a good time. If we push back meat consumption by 50%, you will have 20 million square kilometers of agricultural land. Why agricultural land is important is the rate of survival will be much better when it's on the private land. Our rate of survival is over 90%. Simply because it's on private land, individual farmer is taking care of it and it is his commerce. He's not seeing it as saving the planet. We never talk to the farmer about saving the planet. It is just that to enhance his economic condition, this is being done. And that's the best way to do it. If we do not marry economy and ecology, economy will win hands down.
Sadhguru, that's an excellent way to end up. We work to marry the ecology and the economy. So this is, again, the complexity and the interest in the space. Dr. Jane Goodall, who absolutely needs no introduction, you've been listening to this, why, to close us out, does the y2mate.org initiative, which is a fundamental piece of the jigsaw to tackle climate change alongside the industry transition, the energy transition, the financial transition. Tell us why this is an important and interesting initiative for you and the things that you would like to see it do over the course of its lifetime.
Okay, how many minutes do I have?
You've got a couple of minutes to close us out.
Couple of minutes?
Couple of minutes and there's time for the call.
Well, okay, so it's obviously very fascinating for me to be here to listen to all the speakers on this panel. And thank you, Mark, for acknowledging that I helped to bring you around to my beloved trees. So I've always loved trees. The reason I left the chimpanzee research at Gombe was when I realized that right across Africa, forests were disappearing and chimp numbers were dropping. And when I flew over my tiny Gombe National Park, it had been part of the great equatorial forest belt. But when I looked down in 1990, it was a tiny island surrounded by completely bare hills. And this is when it hit me. If we don't work with the people who are cutting down the trees even on the steep slopes because they're desperate to grow food for their families, then we'll never be able to even try and save the chimpanzees. So my involvement has been through a program called Take Care or Tukari. And it's been so successful that we work with 104 villages throughout the whole chimpanzee range in Tanzania. And it's a very holistic program working with water management programs and women and girls' education and all of this. So now the people have understood that saving the forest is also for saving their own future. So right at the beginning, as I was working on all of this and trying to raise money for it, I realized that all of this is absolutely wasted unless new generations grow up understanding some of the problems that we have brought about upon ourselves with the climate crisis. So I began a program called Roots and Shoots, which began with 12 high school students in Tanzania. It's now in about 60 countries, including India, and including Colombia. And it's got members in kindergarten, university, everything in between. One of the very first projects we did was tree nurseries, was planting trees. And the reason I think that this Trillion Tree project is so exciting, people say to me all the time, what can I do? What's one thing I can do? You can plant a tree. And whether you plant the tree in your own backyard or whether you pay to have trees planted in Tanzania, or if it's urban or rural, you know, it's something you can do. And now I find with all of this amazing technology that's out there, which I don't begin to understand, but you can actually identify individual trees. So I changed the way that animal behavior science was conducted by giving chimpanzees names. I was absolutely castigated by the scientific community. I should have given them numbers. Well, what about naming trees? If you have a tree named for you. So our Roots and Shoots program just last year planted about 5 million trees around the world. And that's with very little support. If we had more money coming in, we could plant many more. 5.5 million, you know, Roots and Shoots has guaranteed that this year alone. So, yeah, the Trillion Tree project is exciting because everybody can get involved. And whether it's communities on the ground that are so important, businesses, politicians, political leaders, children, everybody. And if we have a tree in our name, we want that tree to live. And so, yes, I think the Trillion Tree Project is absolutely fantastic, and I congratulate everybody working on it. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jane Goodall. Now, y2mate.org is the platform. The mobilization will begin. You go there and you can express your interest. I'm sure there are a few questions here. We are quite pressed for time. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the room next door where most of the panelists can stay for a few minutes and take some questions. Some of the panelists have to stay here, obviously, for and some people have got very pressed schedules. But if you want to ask some questions from the panelists, we'll go there because we're going to have to move this one out to get another very important press briefing in. But to close, in terms of the platform that is y2mate.org, to plant, restore, and conserve those 1 trillion trees. Thank you so much, everyone, from this panel. 30 seconds for 20 seconds. Go.
As a part of Kaveri Calling right now, with 5 million farmers, we are committed to plant 2.42 billion trees in one river basin, sequestering about 12 trillion liters of water. This could be done in various river basins to revive rivers also. In India alone, in collaboration with Trillion Trees, very easily we can scale this up to 50 to 60 billion trees across the country in river basins, all on private lands. This is important that it's on private lands because the survival rate is over 90%. Thank you very much.
There we go, and we encourage more of that. So thank you very much. Just give us a round of applause for our panelists.